Hey everybody, I'm back in action, got my workout in, and wanted to talk to you about this idea of becoming bulletproof mentally. Now, every month, at the beginning of the month, for the past over 2 years, my company has paid out a pretty substantial fee for a settlement to a $1 billion plus corporation because years ago, I'll give you the backstory. In a moment, I'll tell you the good news, the bad news, and the ugly news, and then the good news. So when one of my companies was growing really, really rapidly, I made an awful hire, completely my fault, and brought on a guy who at surface level could solve all my problems from a tech-related component. For many of you, whether you know or not, this is not about business, this whole little mini podcast. This is actually about life. But when businesses grow rapidly, one of the biggest things that you want to make sure is working is the technology that supports the growth of the business. It's one of those things that it's a foundation piece that you don't want to be growing rapidly and then all of a sudden you have to change gears because too many things can go wrong. And we face that. We went from doing a couple $100,000 a month to over 7 figures a month and multiple 7 figures a month. And the technology platform we were on wasn't supporting that. So this new guy I brought in convinced me that we needed to upgrade to this supercharger CRM. In my haste to grow rapidly, I didn't dot all my I's and cross all my T's. And really what that means is I gave him full deference, or if that's even a word, to just make the decision, right? So he went off, signed the contract, and put us in this really jumbo contract that extended multiple years. And a couple of rules there. Number one, don't sign a multi-year contract with a $1 billion entity ever unless I don't even know if there's an unless there. Because most contracts you're better off paying a higher fee in a short time range with the ability to exit or have an exit clause, right? So anyhow, after about a month and a half after we had signed this, I kind of realized that the guy I had hired was really a waste and he was lying and he was just not as effective as I had thought he had been. Anyhow, long story short on that, because that's a totally different story on hiring and making sure you have the right people. One thing I could have done, by the way, in hindsight, since I am a small business entrepreneur, I have my own companies. I like keeping my staff small and utilizing third-party contractors for a lot. But one of the things you could do is, and this guy did come recommended, by the way, from a trusted source. So I did allow some of my filters I would have had up. I dropped in, again, haste while growing rapidly. But one of the things I could have done there, and we'll get back to the story in a second, is I could have had a couple of my friends who run their own companies, like my buddy Vinny Fisher from Fully Accountable. I could have had one of his human resources people, Rachel, who does a great job of hiring, just simply do a quick 15 to 30 minute interview with this guy. And they would have seen some of the red flags that I later had seen. But anyhow, so hired the guy after about a month and a half after he signed the contract. I realized he was just really not the right fit for our organization. I fired him. And then I went back and looked at this contract that he had signed. And it was a 5-year, multi-million-dollar contract that when I looked into it, I realized I didn't need 90% of what was on the contract. I just didn't need it. It didn't fit our company. The way our company was run, we had a CRM. The problem we run into was the one we were using couldn't handle the volume of orders on a shared server. It was something like that, some tech-related thing like that. And we just needed a solution that could handle that. And nowadays you have Connective, K-O-N-N-E-C-T-I-V, Matt Martirano's company. You have Shopify. I mean, you can use ClickFunnels. There's so many things you can utilize, right? And there's CRMs like Refersion. I think it's Refersion. Klaviyo. Klaviyo. Refersion's the affiliate tech stack you can use with Klaviyo. Or I think even with Matt's company, I think they have everything all built into one. But my point is that these are all companies. The ones I'm naming is not the company I ended up in a lawsuit with. So I'm not going to name who it was. But anyhow, when I went back to that company and said, hey, look, I don't need any of this stuff. And it was only like 2 months after we had signed the deal. They pretty much had told me, well, you can't renegotiate contracts for a full year. So I was stuck with this extremely hefty contract. The monthly fee on it alone was over 20 grand. It was crazy a month. And so I hired another tech team to help integrate it. So it cost me more, tens of thousands of dollars. And our conversion rates, the things that made my company work, would not work on this CRM. So I called my attorney. I said, look, this is kind of silly. They won't let me out of the contract, blah, blah, blah. And so he gave me some legal advice. The legal advice at the time was pretty much, well, you're going to have to break the contract. They're going to end up suing you. So we went that route. And after about a year and a half of legal fees and dealing with it, knowing, and this is what's crazy, just for everyone to understand that if you are a small business owner or in business alone, when you deal with billion-dollar entities or multi-hundred-million-dollar entities, you just need to know what you're getting into if you're signing contracts. It's not like you can call them up and say, this is not really a fair deal and this isn't really what we needed, and they're going to let you out of it. Whereas like if you deal with my company, 99.9% of the time out of 100, if you attend a seminar, if you took one of our courses, and even if there was no guarantee, even though we do guarantee most of our products, I'll use my supplement business, for example. Even if you took all of our products, even if you like a full year supply, and then you sent them all back and you said, I didn't get the results I was looking for, even though we know that customer's probably lying, we would still give them a refund. We wouldn't question it. In a heartbeat, they would get their money back. In a heartbeat. But that's not how these companies work, okay? They just don't. It became purely, well, here's the rules, and then they were going to sue us. And at that point, I had a lawyer up. And then once you lawyer up, they're going to lawyer up. And I was then introduced to this world of high-paying attorneys, one company being a billion-dollar company, and then there was me. And then we had to go to mediation. Now, I'm going to get to the point here in a second, full point, and this goes all about being bulletproof. So, yeah, today, as I got done working out, I saw in my email that we sent out a wire to the company, and I have 2 wires left, 2 more payments left, and I am done with this company completely. And when I look at those wires going out, I feel good that it's happening. I feel good that I have survived that encounter with that company. I feel grateful that I kept my cool through the mediation, even though despite it, we can argue fairness and we can argue unjustness and how the whole thing is rigged. I could give you all that argument, but that's a waste of time. And at the conclusion of it all, the message I want to send to you, no matter where you're at on your journey, whether it's in business, in raising children, not the business of raising children, but those two separate topics. Okay, so like business, your health, your relationships, the topic of raising children, because as I record this, my wife and I are shoulder deep in raising kids every single day, dealing with each one of their individual personalities and unique needs and challenges and stuff like that. And then, you go back and you got to start life and you got work and you got all these things, right? So no matter what it is, there's never a lack of arrows that are going to be thrown your way. And you just have to decide, are these things preventing you, or are they simply sharpening the saw? So I take out of that experience that I am bulletproof because I mentally was able to get through it. I had a couple buddies that I could talk to about it, but frankly, nobody in my circle of friends from my neighborhood can really relate to that, except a couple attorneys who get paid to be a part of those things. So you're probably listening to this and you have your own thing that's coming your way. And I personally, every single time that there's hiccups in the business, there's hiccups in whatever there might be, it's so easy to look at that thing and go like, well, Could you imagine if that $500,000 that now is going to $1 billion corporation over 3 years was in our own investment accounts? Like, where would that be in 10 years? You know what I mean? It's so easy to let my mind drift there. And it's $1 billion company that does not need the money. Is probably doing this to multiple other customers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can go down that path, but that's not what's going to make myself better. And it's definitely not going to make you better to focus on what's happened in the past and or what is unfair or what is unjust or what is not going your way today. We have to recalibrate. We have to ask ourselves the question, what is the most important thing right now? What can I do today to make my life move 1 step, 2 steps closer to my goals? What's 1 or 2 things that I can do today to make me better at? And then you insert the blank, okay? Today, we did a workout that mentally challenged me. It was hot, it was humid. I went out hard pace. I had a number of laps I was trying to get. And there was a point where I was like, what was I thinking? I'm going too fast. I'm doing, blah, 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 yada, yada. It hit me. And I was like, and I had to take a deep breath. I had to recalibrate. And I had to say to myself, Ed, this is where you belong, in this place right now where that chatter starts showing up. This is what you do this for, right? We do these things. And you have to have a belief that these things are preparing us for something greater, something bigger, and that our future is bigger than our past, is brighter than our past. And when I say bigger, brighter, I don't mean in terms of you get to define that, not me. So the secret to being bulletproof is realizing that everything that comes your way is not there to stop you, but to sharpen you. Everything that comes your way is to make you stronger. Everything that comes your way is only preparing you for the greater you that you feel is out there, that you are moving towards. And that's the secret. Okay, that's the secret. So hope you enjoyed this today, and let me know what you think of this little mini episode. All right, have an amazing day, everybody. Bye.